I'm Don Breting, my wife Ellen, and we have the pleasure of interviewing Pastor Bob Collick and his wife Aileen. Bob, tell us when you came to Immanuel.
As I recall, it was August of 1957 when we came here from Salt Lake City, Utah.
Oh, from Salt Lake. And then you stayed until when?
Well, my last sermon was February 22nd, 1959. I know that because I had that sermon yet.
Are you going to give us that sermon this
morning? Oh, yes, I'm going to review that again. Yeah.
You've had an interesting time since you left Immanuel. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, when we left Immanuel, we went out to Wayne, New Jersey. There was a new mission being developed. Stayed there for 19 years.
19?
Yeah. Went through a couple of building programs, etc. And from there, we went to Newport Beach, California. Actually, Corona del Mar, which is part of Newport Beach. And I've been there 11 years, and will retire in about 7 weeks. So, story of my life.
You're going to love it. How did you get in the ministry? That generally is an interesting topic.
Yeah, it's kind of a story that doesn't have any particular moment when I made that decision, but it was kind of a gradual awareness that this was something I was interested in. And I suspect that I always knew that Mother would be very pleased if I went into ministry. But then there was a pastor in a Lutheran church back in Ironwood, Michigan, where I was born and raised, that I admired a great deal. And Pastor Johnson and I used to go fishing together. He went muskie fishing. Don't ask me how many we didn't catch. But I liked him so very much and admired him, and I think he was the one that started to affect my decision-making process. Went into the service for 3 years, and during that time, and part of that time was a chaplain's assistant, and that solidified my feelings about the ministry. And then, of course, went from the service, went to Gustavus Adolphus for my collegiate education, and then went to the seminary at Augustana. So it was kind of a long process.
Yeah, it took a few years.
Yeah, right.
You've seen quite a number of different characteristics in the churches that you've served, I imagine. From Immanuel to a mission church,
right.
And from a mission church to an established church. It was the one in California. It was an established church when you went there.
Yes. Yeah, and in fact, as I looked at my ministry, I've had the good fortune of being in locales where we met in a home, as we did in Salt Lake City, with was it about 9 average attendance?
Oh my goodness!
And three of the 9 were Aileen and I and our firstborn. And the Mormons were streaming by to their particular steakhouse, from that little situation to Immanuel, which then had almost 1,400 members, out to the new mission and meeting in a school in the church.
Oh, yes.
So it had all those kinds of experiences, which went pretty wonderful.
We had that kind of an experience when we left Immanuel in 1950 and went out to Long Island to a mission church. Mm-hmm. And it was just amazing, the contrast, and yet the same sort of spirit pervaded both places.
Did that church in Salt Lake City survive? In a Mormon?
You would ask that.
Well, it's
no, it didn't survive. It's a Lutheran church. No. Now it belongs to a sect. I don't know. It's a Baptist sect or something.
Yes.
And it's still there, functioning as a congregation, but not Lutheran. So.
That would be very open field for anybody other than Mormons. So.
Yeah. We did end up with a nice little congregation though in the building and so on. So it had its accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
Well, our experience on Long Island was rather interesting too. I know this is not my interview, but anyhow, I think it's very interesting because they met at a Quonset hut.
Uh-huh.
And I remember I was on the board. We were making plans for building a new building because we were outgrowing the space. But at the same time, we had to tell the pastor that he'd only get half salary at that moment because we didn't have the income.
Yeah.
So the place was growing, but not the revenue.
Interesting days.
Those were interesting days.
Yeah,
that's when faith is tried.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, what about the church in California? That's another unique setting, isn't it?
Yes, we're in a beach community, and that provides some kinds of difficulties that one might not be aware of, because it's a very affluent community which allows people to, on the weekends, do just about what they want to do, which church is not the top priority, we discovered. So it's slow growing, and in terms of where we are, our particular congregation, although others further inland are growing quite rapidly because so many people are moving there. But it's been a great place to live, right here.
That's right. It's a very interesting combination of singles that want nothing to do with church, and of course the older ones are still carrying on, and you find so much wealth and such diversity of cultures, and it's a really fascinating place to live, and also it's very difficult to
Perhaps the most
minister.
difficult ministry I've had.
Of the various places.
Yeah.
But you did establish a senior home there.
Yes, we have a marvelous senior citizens retirement home. It's a HUD project, so it's for the low income, and we have about 117 people living.
How many apartments?
101.
I thought the community was sort of fighting that.
Oh yes, they fight everything, no matter
But
what
low
goes up.
income to move into their.
Oh yes, that was going to destroy their view and everything else. So that was a lot. But here again, I think it's an indication of a small group of lay people who committed themselves to a task, which was an amazing, because the amount of time that went into that program is, you cannot imagine. And working with the government and the politics involved, it was an experience, but it's marvelous.
Is that adjacent to the church?
Right, yeah, it was on our property, which was our property, which we sold off to the corporation. So it's right adjacent to the church.
It's a marvelous place for the older people, because not only do they have an area which is lovely to live in, but they have all the amenities of a community. And the managers are just marvelous. They're from California Lutheran Homes, which is the managing agent, and they really, if you want to participate, there are things that you can do.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for you to feel isolated unless you so choose.
Out of curiosity, just how many of the people in the home are members of the church? Is it?
Oh, I'd say there probably would be about 15 to 20% that are members that are involved. I have a Bible study over there once a week. Some of those are not involved in our church at all, because everybody, it's a misnomer to call it CBO Lutheran in a sense, because it's not sectarian in any way at all. It has to be open to everyone.
Yeah.
And it should be that way anyhow.
Yes,
That's right.
absolutely, yeah. But it's been a good experience, very, very big plus to it.
But we talked about the reactions of getting together after approximately 30 years, how things don't seem to change at all in that interval of time when you re-meet people that you've met some time ago. How about your reaction coming into Immanuel, where you served for 2 years? Does that feel like coming home?
Yeah, it was interesting to walk in the sanctuary and get all the feelings again about how I felt when I was here, and thinking about that beautiful sanctuary, and almost seeing people out there in the audience that you can remember, coming into the office and recalling all of this, and Dr. Gustavson's and my participation together. The things that I learned here, because I was still kind of fresh on it. I'd only been out 4 years, and I came here in my 5th year of ministry, so it was a good learning experience.
Good.
And I think Dr. Gustavson provided an opportunity for me to become aware of how important it is to know people. That was one of the significant pluses of learning, as I was concerned, because he was such a people person.
Yeah.
And that was a positive remembrance that I had.
I think you should ask about the children.
Well, you can ask.
Collicks,
How about that?
Collicks
You do have a family.
family
Yeah,
too.
well, I'll tell about the
Eileen,
family.
tell us about the kids.
Bruce and Carolyn were both youngsters. I mean, Bruce
Right.
was 5 and Carolyn was 3, I think, right? When we came here, so they were really small.
We're 3 years apart here, so remember.
Yeah, that's right.
But you said 5.
Oh, 2.
2.
She was 2. Oh, goodness. And we have, of course, since leaving Immanuel, had Paul, who was born when we were in New Jersey. So, and Paul now is 26 and teaching school at Santa Ana. Carolyn is a mom and married to Terry Smith. And they enjoying their son.
So are we.
Your first grandchild?
Yeah.
That's right.
First one.
And Bruce is a physicist, now living in Madison and working on the MRI for General Electric. And he is enjoying his work also. So,
MRI, you have to explain that to me.
oh, that's magnetic resonance imaging,
Oh,
which is used in medicine.
oh yes.
Yes, it's a process, and Bruce is working with this.
Is that big
That's
Okay.
a big,
Diana
moved you to.
experience?
That's right.
Diana had to be wheeled into one of those. It's kind of
Scary.
It's very scary. It's a
Hope you
scary.
didn't throw me in as part of the experiment.
Certainly getting.
They left
Hey,
her-
Dad, I'll get you the tank.
They left her feet bare, and she thinks they did that so they get cold, and she concentrated on her cold feet. Well, the children really grew up in, well, they were in Wayne a long time too. So they,
Well, really, Carolyn and Bruce went through high school. Bruce was in kindergarten when we went to Wayne, and he and Carolyn both graduated from Wayne High School. So that Wayne literally is home when you think of growing up, I'm sure.
And those are good years we had there.
Yeah, Wayne was
Marvelous
delightful, wonderful. I always say New Jersey is, I can't knock New Jersey.
A lot of people do.
in spite of the New Jersey Turnpike. Right?
How large was the church there when you left?
We had approximately, as I recall, around 600 on the membership list, about 300 kids. So it's close to 900 to 1,000.
That's a good
That
size.
was our peak at that point. We had two Sunday schools.
You took additional
Sunday
studies when you were there.
Yeah, we had to divide the Sunday school because we had so
Oh,
many
yeah,
kids.
it's better space.
Yeah.
And you took additional studies too.
Yeah, I went to Princeton Theological Seminary to get my master's in pastoral theology. And that was a 2-year program, which was
I
an
remember that you did that.
outstanding experience for me. And one of those years was spent at the Trenton State Hospital on a 1-day-a-week basis, where we sort of a clinical training experience that I had, which was outstanding. Yeah, that's what I did in the 60s.
Well, you've had a good life.
Yeah,
And it shows in your face. Both of your faces.
yeah, we've been
Very
blessed.
satisfied.
We've been blessed very much.
And now retirement's coming up.
Yeah, boy, soon.
Yeah.
We're moving to the desert.
The desert, from the
Yeah,
ocean to the desert.
La Quinta,
La Quinta.
which means the home in the country.
Oh,
Oh, that's nice.
that's neat.
I want you to know that.
Okay.
So
And you told us it was your first home. I mean, that you're really purchasing, so.
yeah, purchasing is sort of a relative
Big step.
term.
Yeah. It's kind of late in life to get a mortgage. You know?
Yeah. If I see the end of that mortgage, I would be in, I hope, 5 minutes there.
Okay.
But yeah, then we got, of course, we were born and raised in Ironwood, which is not too far from here, Ironwood, Michigan, and we've got a summer cottage up there. It's been part of the family for years. We go back every summer, and I love that. That's
Yeah.
Well, we'll be visiting you in California in the desert some month, day, or a year.
Yeah.
I hope so.
And then when you come on your way back from California to go up to Ironwood,
Yes, you
then
know.
you have a place to stop in Chicago.
It's much easier to do that now because we're not going to be under time constraints.
That is what's nice about retirement.
But don't think that you're going to have nothing to do when you're retired. It's just the opposite. You seem to
I'm
have
here to work.
you have more things to do, and the clock runs even faster in retirement.
I suppose.
Well, Aileen hasn't been exactly idle either because you must share your.
What are you
Yeah.
doing?
Well, I have been a nurse, working as a nurse.
And you have a specialty as well.
Yes, I'm a certified rehabilitation nurse. So that,
You've been keeping
We
us
have to get
solvent.
that
yes, rest. Seeing as you all have the nurse program now at Emmanuel.
Sure. It would be nice if we have time tomorrow to go to Augustana Center to see that place
Yes, we-
You can drop in for a few minutes.
and see the program that's taking place in our Founders Hall.
it's been wonderful to be here, and I want to thank you folks so much for allowing that to happen.
Yeah,
It's a thrill for us to come
it's a
back.
real plus.
It's a thrill having you back.
Really. So,
And it's kind of interesting last night when we went to Dominic's to get some film for today, in the checkout line, the fellow at the end that was doing the packaging said, "You two are twins." And
So white hair and the
white hair and the glasses, and
And
you
you're
were
both-
wearing my jacket, so that made it.
You're both watching
But then
your
we
weight.
decided, neither of us, both of us thought that was a very nice idea.
Yeah, man, that was a good flattering compliment.
For me.
Yeah, you sure don't look like you're twin.
That's neat.
And I think that's a good note on which to end this interview. It's been
Thank
real
you
pleasant.
again.
Wonderful to have you here.
Oh,
Mike,
Really is.
it's super.
And it'd be interesting to see if I still remember the sermon after 30 years.
Oh,